Hello, we have got down onto the Mara River again, and it seems like there could be some zebra thinking about crossing here. I just want to make sure I'm not parked too nearby their possible crossing points, as we certainly do not want to interfere. I'm told you've been chatting about young Hosanna. What an incredibly cool story that is, both him and Shongile, and the success they have made what could have been a very, very tricky time. Well, I'm sure it was a tricky time of their lives, but they did succeed very well in making it to maturity at quite a young age without their mum, and I'm sure a lot of you enjoyed that story unfolding and being able to witness it. We are just north of the main North River crossing camera. We've got 4 river crossing cameras dotted along the Mara River. And like I say, one is just a little bit downstream of us, and it appears like these zebra are thinking about taking the plunge. They may just be coming down for a drink of water, or they may be wanting to cross. It's hard to be certain, but for now it looks like they are all heading in the wrong direction. It's not uncommon for these animals to and fro, backwards and forwards, plucking up the courage to run, jump, swim the gauntlet. They're obviously just not feeling that it's a good idea. Most of them are turning, but as quickly as they turned and headed off, they could turn around and come back and jump in and cross right in front of us. So may spend a couple of minutes here just to make sure they don't want to cross. You would like to know if there's any terrapins in this river, and yes, there certainly are. There'll probably be a number of different species. I haven't seen a huge amount of them though, but they are here. There's no two ways about that. They'll also frequent the little puddles and ponds, of which there's quite a few of them, the smaller tributaries. They generally like kind of slower, more stagnant water as far as I'm aware. I've just spotted, I think, a little kind of a heron just to the left of the hippos on the bank. There's a little rock there, wildebeest. There it is. Very well camouflaged. Oh, it's not a heron. It's a water thickney. And as its name suggests, it has very thick knees. It was once called in Dutch a dikkop, a thick head, as it also has quite a chunky head. And it's doing a good job just relaxing there, quite well camouflaged. There could well be a few more dotted around not too far from it. They do blend in very well, but not that I can initially see. I wonder where the terrapins are hiding. What I'm going to do is, if we do stop near a puddle or a pond or a small tributary, I'll see if I can find one for you, but they certainly do occur here. It'll be also interesting to know what fish live in this river. I'm fairly certain there'll be catfish, probably a few species of tilapia, a few species of catfish probably, but it would be interesting to know what's swimming beneath the surface. Ah, well, it sounds like James has got himself deep into a large herd of the migration, so why don't you go and enjoy that?
Hello again, everyone. First of all, this picture is wobbly not because Fergus is shaking the camera or because somebody's breakdancing on the back of the car. It's because it's so windy and we're right at the end of the lens. Now, he's going to pan slowly to the right on cue. Every single one of the black dots that you can see in that picture is a wildebeest. Look how many there are. And we can't go down there because just south of the greenish part in the middle of your screen is Tanzania. And so they're south of the border. Now what's interesting is that I spoke to a Tanzanian guide the other day on the border. He said very few wildebeest left there. And so what they're doing is going back and forth. Wherever there is green pasture, they are moving to it and probably following the storms. And we haven't seen numbers of wildebeest like this in the Northern Triangle for some time. Well, some time being about 7 days. Isn't that quite remarkable? They go really as far as the eye can see. And in amongst them there must be some predators as well, but we can't go down there because there will just be no signal, I'm afraid. Isn't that astounding? We've covered an area now, probably Fergus has probably covered about, I'm going to say a line of roughly 8 kilometers, 5 miles or so. Everywhere strewn with wildebeest. The numberless herds. Even more coming up now. It just goes on and on and on. Now I think the group that we were in amongst yesterday, up on this hill where we are now, has moved off down in that direction. I'm sure they're part of that group there. Just astounding. Right, well our plan from here is going to be to go along this ridge and hopefully find a route up north where we have some signal. While we do that, I believe that the biggest eared leopard in the world would like to talk to you once again. Ah, Crash Cut Live. Hello again, everybody. I'm not sure what happened to Thamba. What happened to Thamba? Never mind. All right, let's drive along the road here. We'll run out of signal again, so we're going to turn up north and see if we can't find a nice route home and perhaps bump into the Sausage Pride on the way home. And I mean, I say go home now. We are a long, long way out. So it's not like going home means we're about to arrive. And it's got that very wildebeesty smell around here at the moment. Halfway between goat and cattle, with a little bit of horse mixed in, I've said. It's a very pretty tree up ahead we'll go and have a look at. Oh, hang on. There's the familiar bird. Look, Fergus, they're flying away. Familiar flying away birds. The crowned lapwings. About to be blown away completely. I think they're regretting the decision to take off. Speaking of taking off, at the end of this road, when Fergus and I, sorry, I dropped him in it there. When Fergus and I were running from the storm on this road a little while back, we found our way blocked at one stage by an aeroplane on the road. And some, what can only be described as a cowboy, and I don't mean that in the traditional sense, I mean that in the sense that I suppose an English person might say some yahoo landed his aeroplane on the road. And then I said to him, well, you seem to have blocked my way with your aeroplane, sir. And he looked at me as though I'd stepped from a piece of Swiss cheese, as though it had been I that was doing something unusual. Then he proceeded to start the engine, and the engine was started by, you know those old model planes that you used to wind up like that, with the elastic band in the middle, and then, you know, you'd let them go and they'd fly about 2 meters before bashing into your mother or something, and then she'd break it and throw it away. Anyway, that's another story. But he started doing this. I said, have you got an elastic band in there? He also didn't find that very funny. And he unsurprisingly had a lady in the back of his plane with him, and so he was trying to be impressive. And every time he pulled the thing to start, it would just go And this went on about 20 times before it started to become quite awkward, and Fergus and I were having a hard giggle. And eventually he managed to start this plane up. And by that stage I'd made a number of what I thought were hilarious comments, but clearly he had had quite enough of me making fun of his attempts to take off. Because, you know, you don't make fun of a pilot. A pilot is a little bit like a doctor. They are elevated above the level of normal humanity, you see, in their own eyes. Anyway, he eventually got this thing off the ground, and he came round and he bombed us. He came, I mean, he couldn't have been more than 2 feet above the roof when he came past, and I took a picture of him. I have a full frontal of this pilot's face in his aeroplane coming straight towards us. Anyway, he then flew off into the storm, and I don't know if he was ever seen again. In the meantime, while we ponder these things, let's go across to Thamba the Leopard. We should take this road.
A pilot, Well, unfortunately we had a few gremlins just now, but isn't that just the most beautiful face? Look at those eyes, deep black around them. That's probably one of the reasons why his eyes are so striking, is because they're very light, and they've got this dark black sort of ring around them that really makes him stand out. And particularly when he looks up like that, he is absolutely beautiful. You can see that little pink nose, and not one little scrape or scar on him at the moment. It will all change as he becomes a dominant male. He's certainly going to have issues with lots. Oh, there's the screenshot right there. Look at that. Look how he just held his gaze slightly. It's almost as if he was just posing for all of you at home. Now, I don't know what he keeps looking up at. There seems to be something that's moving around that keeps catching his attention above us. He's looking around. There's a little fly that's landed on him, so that certainly will be shaken off shortly. There's lots of flies where we are, and the reason is that there's been a number of animals spending a lot of time here, and so there's a lot of dung which a lot of these flies do land on. So I think they're going to start driving poor little Thamba mad in the next little bit. You can see already 2 of them on his nose, and there comes a third. There's going to be quite a few, and you'll eventually find that he'll shake his face. What have you seen? I can't see what he's watching. I've got like a steep bank right where I am, but he's definitely seen something. Maybe there's an impala or a bushbuck or something that's walking on top here that he's going to go and try and stalk. It'll be interesting. What are you going after? He's certainly running. There, he's chased something. What has he got? I don't know what he chased, but he went after something. I don't think he got it. Maybe it was a squirrel that he was chasing, but I can't see anymore because he's gone over a bank where we can't see what's happening. I'll have to ask Tax. But Kristen, you're wondering who's potentially Thamba's dad. Well, in all likelihood it's Tingana. There's a possibility, as outside chance, it could be Quarantine or Shivambalan, but basically Tingana was the only male that mated with Thandi, as far as we know. Like I say, sometimes these females will move outside of their territories and mate with other males, so it does happen, but as far as we know, it was just Tingana that mated. But there is an outside chance that maybe Quarantine or even Shivambalana might have mated with her. The problem with that is that they're both related. They're both brothers of hers. Effectively, they have the same mother, so it's better if Tingana mated rather than those two. Now, I don't know where little Thamba disappeared. He went... Oh, there he is. He obviously missed whatever he was after. There he goes. You silly boy. Are you chasing squirrels, of all things? But you can see you're asking if he can hunt. There's just a prime example of a bit of inexperience. He didn't even stalk. He just literally went bounding up there. He came close. Whatever he chased, he was right behind, because his stride lengthened quite a bit. And then he decided, no, that's it. And I wonder if he's not going to settle up top there. I'm going to try and see if we can keep up with him down below here. Now, of course, Rusty needs to go into low range to get out of the deep sand. There's one nice thing about being in a Land Rover is that the sand is not as much of an issue as what you would find. I wonder if he's going to come back down again. It looks as though he's going to carry on. So I'm going to just try and see if I can't keep up with him while Tax negotiates a deep hill. Now, the nice thing about being in a Land Rover as opposed to the Land Cruiser is it's a much shorter, lighter vehicle, so much easier to negotiate these areas. Adele and Natalie, you're wondering if older leopards are still agile. Well, not as agile as their younger counterparts, and that's why it becomes difficult for them to hunt things like impala and varying other antelope species that we get in this area. As soon as they get a little bit older, they get a bit slower, and it's really difficult for them to keep up, and so you end up with a situation where they unfortunately really battle, and they'll have to go after slower things like porcupines and aardvarks and these little bit slower animals and heavier animals, and that's why we see Mvula hunting those things quite a bit. Now we're going to try and see if we can't keep up with Thamba, because he's just sneaked behind some bushes here and the other guys are trying to get past me, and there's no way to get past from where I am. So we'll just try to sneak forward slightly to give him a bit of space so that they can get past. Hopefully our signal will stay. Now, while we try and get around, let's go back to James and see how he's doing in the Mara.
Well, what I'm faring is I'm faring quite well. Thank you very much, Tristan. What we're looking at here is a lovely copse of trees. We've come over the other side of the swamp system here. And, well, we'll just pan around. I'll show you what there is. There's the trees there, indicating quite a lot of water. I mean, it looks like a fairly mature forest. And I have the overwhelming desire to get out of the car and go and walk in it, which obviously I'm not going to do because I'm not allowed to. And then, if we keep going the other way, we've got a little group of wildebeest. They're very closely knit together, and I suspect that they will slowly make their way down towards the water. Oh, in fact, there's a massive herd in the distance there, moving down towards the water. You see it there, folk? Yeah. Down through the gap there. Brian, you're wondering about stampeding, possibly on the back end of my story of the cowboy. And you say if 2 or 3 of them got spooked, would the rest of them run? That does often happen, Brian, yes. They're very skittish, especially in wind like this, and so if one of them got a big fright, it's highly likely that the rest would follow the example and start running around at great speed. So there you can see the vast herd heading down to water. I think we're going to try and head down there. I don't know how much signal we're going to have, but we're going to do our best. I can see a road going sort of in that direction. Good. I think let's drive. Rebecca, you'll just keep me posted, obviously, on how much signal we have. And in fact, we're not going to take that risk, because I believe Scott Dyson is now pretending to be a cheetah in the long grass.
I wish I had a bit of more time to prepare. I would have pinned my tail on, put my cheetah onesie on, and done a little bit of a parade through these beautiful grassy clearings that we are making our way through. Ideally, though, I'd be able to find you a real cheetah, and it certainly is possible. Even that coalition of 5 males, the Musketeers, comes this far down towards the Mara River. I've heard of them being here on one occasion when a friend of mine spotted them. They came down from the Rhino Ridge, which we showed you a little bit earlier this morning, which is about, I'd say, 3 kilometers off to the east to our right. And there are also 2 sisters that have been frequenting an area that we're going to now called the Marsh, which is probably another about 5 or 6 kilometers ahead of us. I've been trying to skirt along all these thickets in the hope that we can find a leopard. I've only seen 1 leopard since I've been in the Mara. He was a beautiful, beautiful specimen. Oh, what have we got here? This right here is a dead end. If we were to try and drive through this, we would get very, very stuck. So, now what? There must be another road somewhere. I really love exploring this place, and it's huge, so it's going to take us a while to learn all the pathways and tracks. To give you an idea, we have got about, let me do my maths quickly, my abacus is a bit rusty. We've got about 85 times the traverse that Tristan has got. So we've got 85 times bigger area to traverse than the Djuma crew, which means it's a little bit more tricky for us to learn all the ins and outs. I really love the fact that Djuma is small, because it forced us to focus on some of the smaller things, birds' nests, you know, individual families, individual leopards, so there's benefits to both, that's for certain. I hope there is going to be a crossing here, there should be. Hello, cheeky geeky Beth. You would like to know what these little forested ecosystems contain. I'm guessing kind of what, mammals maybe? I hope you're not referring to which plants, because as James admitted earlier, he said he's not very good with his trees and vegetation here yet. I can assure you he is 3 steps ahead of me. So yeah, I mean, the smaller, more secretive animals will use those areas for homes. There's a lot of rocks, and within the rocks there'll be little caves and crevices. I'm sure animals like porcupine have got their burrows in there. But sadly, cheeky geeky Beth, I can't think of much else at the moment, because I haven't really spent too much time exploring them, and therefore don't know exactly what can be found within them. It would be a great place to do a bushwalk. It would be incredibly spooky. That actually would be a terrible place to do a bushwalk. It would be horrifying. It's just far too thick in there, with too much imminent danger. There's a relatively decent sized elephant bull off to our right, acquiring some brekkie. It's actually not relatively decent sized, it's a youngster, it's small. A little boy. Interesting that he's all alone. Oh no. There's another one off to the distance to the right behind it, on the edge of that thicket. There we go. Is that also a bull? Or is there a bit of a herd here? Huh. I think it's a herd. It looks like a female there. So maybe this adolescent boy is just trying to spend a little bit less time than, well, with his mothers or mother and aunties. Hello, Chitty Chatty. You've noticed that the elephant's tusks here are longer and thinner and cleaner than, and straighter than the elephants down in Djuma. And yes, I think as a general rule, especially the cows, they do have quite long, straight tusks. The bulls tend to vary, but I do agree with you, and I guess it's just a slight genetic, I mean, it's not a subspecies. I'm not sure what could have caused the different kind of tusk shape. Possibly, no, it can't have anything to do with the food. It's a good question, but I do agree with you that the tusks here, especially the cows, do appear to be quite impressive, especially compared to the Djuma Ellies. Wunderbar. Now, I'm not convinced there must be a road along the front there. I'm wondering if there's a road that takes us along the edge of this forest, but I think there actually might not be one. I think we've hit a dead end here. Which is not the end of the world. Aha! Well, while we try and find which road to be on, I'm told Tristan is off-piste.
Now, we're trying to see if we can't find him again. I don't know where he's disappeared to. Also, I've knocked my own earpiece out, trying to adjust my cap. But I don't know where he is now. He was somewhere in this general vicinity, walking towards us, but I can't see where he's actually gone. Do you see him, Seb? Oh, there he is. I can just see him now standing up. I wonder what he's rooting around for now. Shame, he went to try and lie up on a termite mound and then he didn't really feel that comfortable, and now he's back down, heading towards the Mulawati, where he seems to feel as though it's a lot safer. You can hear there's a few Franklins making a noise at him as well. Shame, my boy. Is everyone shouting at you today? Here he comes. So, just telling Aubrey that he's coming out quickly. He should start coming right in front of us, and hopefully he's going to lie down on the bank here. You can just see, it's amazing how those spots do blend in though. You can see why these environments along the Mulawati are the best place for these kind of spotted cats, is because they just disappear in this dappled light. There we go. Oh, look at that beautiful light. And you can see big fat belly as well. Vulpine Wolf Girl, we want to know if Thamba will keep this eye color or will it change as he gets older. Well, Vulpine Wolf Girl, more than likely the color of his eyes is going to get slightly lighter, if anything, but he should sort of stay the same. Remember, he's a year old now, so his eye color shouldn't actually change too much anymore. He's about what it should be for the rest of his life, which is really cool, because it is very unique and very pretty what he's got. I suppose not unique, I've seen leopards with eye color like that before, but it is just very pretty that he has those eyes like that, and he's certainly going to be a good looking boy when he's older, and I'm sure the ladies will love him as he becomes a big, dominant, powerful individual. I'm just going to try to see if we can't keep up with him. He's now crossed over the Mulawati and it gets quite thick on the other side, so we'll have to try and see if we can't just stay with him as he moves around. There is a fallen over tree here that I've always wanted to see a leopard in, and I haven't, so I'm hoping that he's going to head towards that area, because it is absolutely beautiful where that is. Now I can't see where he's gone. He's somewhere just behind this thicket. I'm just trying to see where he's going to move out of. Seems to be doing quite a bit of back and forth at the moment, so I don't think he's quite sure where he wants to go. At the moment I can't see any sign of him, so maybe let's try see if we can't just sneak forward here and see if we can't find him somewhere in this particular area. He's just here in the front, so I don't want to block these people that are next to us, but he's just in front, sitting underneath one of the trees, having a little sniff around. And there's some elephants behind us that are trumpeting. I wonder if maybe Tundi is not on her way back and they've seen her and they're making a bit of noise now about her behind us. But we're going to stay with Thamba, and we're going to stay with this area and see if the Ellies arrive and if Tundi arrives. And while we do that, let's go back to Scott, who I think slowly but surely making his way home.
Yes, it appears we are now back on track, and certainly exciting stuff happening across with you guys and Tristan. Just to give you an idea of where camp is, I can actually show you just about exactly where it is. Let's stop and show you. It's at about 10 o'clock, I think, Vim. I can see the Agama Lodge nestled on the escarpment up there. Yeah, that's it. Now, we are just on the other side. You can see that valley that runs in there. We are just on the other side of where you can see those roofs. So not far, but just out of view. Now we are going to have to drive all the way around, exit through one gate called Musiara Gates, and then work our way back along and then up the escarpments. It'll probably take us another hour from the gates, and our plan is to arrive around the gates and the famous marsh, the Musiara Marsh, after which the Marsh Pride is named, just towards the end of the safari, which will give us some time to go back, do some TLC on the vehicles. We're thinking about repositioning these lights, some slight modifications, moving them out of the way, and VM's got a lot of footage he needs to log, so we need to get back to base to do a little bit of admin and then be ready for heading out tomorrow. We'll all be heading out tomorrow to spend the night out again. Jamie and Brent are getting back today from the coast, so we need to get ready for a 2-night stint out there in preparation for our second to last TV show. It's all happened so quickly, and I'm hoping that we are going to get spoiled with some great action on these last 2 shows. 2-night stint out there in preparation for our second to last TV show. It's all happened so quickly, and I'm hoping that we are going to get spoiled with some great action on these last 2 shows. We have battled a little bit. To be fair, Mother Nature hasn't been hugely on our side, but then again we must be grateful for what we have seen. Now, is there a leopard creeping up on this Impala, or is it just a little bit nervous because it's all on its own? I love the way they can swivel one ear back, so one ear is listening to us, the one on the right, and okay, VM's gonna look for the leopard instead. Come on, leopard, where are you hiding? Would you mind going back there to the Impala's head? Now it's kind of got both ears on us, but definitely its right ear was swiveled back to keep an ear on us, but I guess it can keep an ear and an eye on us, as well as an ear and an eye on whatever's kind of in front of it to the left, and that is why they are so effective at evading being caught. They've got very, very good built-in security systems which helps them detect predators before they can pounce. In the case of the cheetah that we've been following, though, that's not really applicable, though, because there's 5 of them and they've got incredible speed, and they don't need to get as close to leopard, or as leopard and lion do, to their prey. Speaking of which, Tristan has got you into a great spot with that leopard.
Now, I really hope Scott does manage to find a leopard lurking around there. I know he's been dying to see one, and I'm not sure if he has seen one yet in the Mara, but I'm hoping that he will get to see one soon. Now, little Thamba is just having a nice rest, and his rest is about to be disturbed quite quickly, because just to our southern side, as you can see, he's just noticed that there is a herd of elephants walking straight towards him, so he's definitely going to be disturbed, although he's going back in that direction as though he wants to go and investigate what's going on. Are you going to go and have a look at the big elephants? It's a funny leopard, this. There we go, you can see, look how beautiful his markings are. He's got such a nice gold coat, which is quite typical of male leopards. You do see it quite regularly. Seb, I'm going to just try and turn so we can maybe get the elephants and the leopard in the same shot. Seb is saying to me that he really wants to see them. Seb, can I go back there? Because just now I hit a stump while I was reversing, and luckily we have a tire on the back of our cars, and that protected me from getting too much damage to the car, because I didn't see the stump at all, and it was quite a large one, which would have been a little bit of a hazard for me. Now, if he goes onto my fallen over stump, I'm going to be so ecstatic, I don't think I'll even know. But look, there's the elephant. Look where he is, and look where the elephant is. He's just on the other side. So the elephant is just in front of him. Little Thamba is just on the right there. There you can see him going down, and then the ear of the elephant flapping behind the tree. Hold on. Let me try and get a better view for you here, Seb. This is so cool. What are you doing? You're going to make that elephant very upset, big boy. Look, he's watching the elephant. There's the elephant, and there's Thamba. How cool is that? Seb, so that's what you were looking for. And he's not scared of this elephant at all. Look, now he's climbing into a tree. Hold on, let's try and see if we can keep up with little Thamba. And what you doing, naughty boy? There's the elephant in the background. Chastity, you want to know if leopards hear elephants or hear higher pitched sounds like domestic cats? Well, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they pick up sounds just like what domestic cats would. They have very advanced hearing, and they would be able to hear most things. But I certainly think he's going to go onto my fallen over tree and watch these elephants, which is going to be absolutely spectacular. So I want to try and see if I can't get back down the riverbed. Although here's his tail just here. The elephants are slowly moving off. He's just in that thicket. Now, come on, go onto your fallen over tree for us and watch the elephants from your tree. I think he's a bit nervous to go right out in the open. I think he's preferring to rather be in the thicket. Although there he goes. I definitely think he's going to go down there. Look at this. This is so cool. We can have elephants and leopard in the same sighting. Wow. You can't stalk an elephant, you silly cat. So I'm going to go forward a little bit for you. But there we go. How is that, Seb? That's what you were asking for. Wow. How cool is that? That's epic. Epic, epic, epic. Our little boy is watching the Ellies. And you can see the big fallen over tree just to the right. So he's not far, but I think he would prefer to be in a little bit of cover when he watches. And he's seeing the Ellies. The Ellies are having a little suckling session in the background there. So everybody's really quite chilled. Wow. I'm surprised at him. I would have thought he would have been a bit nervous of the Ellies and walked away. But it seems as though he's completely intrigued by these guys. He's actually come closer and is coming to see what they're doing. Now I wonder if the Ellies are going to come close to this bank and whether or not he's going to react to them. Nope, they're going to start feeding. So we're all just going to be one big happy family at this stage. Now elephants would be a lot more wary if they maybe picked up the scent of lions rather than leopard. Leopard they know is not too much of a threat. Lions they get very nervous of, and they probably find the elephants would be a lot more on edge. But the leopard, even if they do see him, generally they'll just take a step towards him and kind of chase him off, but they're not really going to worry too much. Now, I know a lot of you say this is awesome and that this is magical. Well, it is. It's a special sighting, so maybe it's the perfect time for a one-word tweet. #SafariLive as to what you think about the sighting of Thamba and his new big friends that he's made today. And there we go. I think they're going to disappear a little bit off to the right. I wonder if he's going to move to follow them. Thamba, that's an elephant more your size to make friends with. The big female I don't think is the best elephant to be looking for. He's just, you see how he keeps a lower profile? Now that they're up on the bank, he's now got his ears lower. He's trying not to show himself as much. So while he's intrigued by these elephants, he also doesn't want to give himself away. And at least from where he is now, he's got lots of options. Should an elephant try and chase him, he's got lots of trees he can go into. But generally with the leopard, the best thing to do when chased by elephants is actually to run into a thicket, not into a tree, because elephants, if they see you in the tree, might get a little bit more aggressive and carry on trying to get to him. So better that he just goes down the riverbed and away from them. But let's see how the Ellies go. They're still feeding on the banks, and I wonder if they're not going to come around towards where he is. Kristen, you want to know whether an elephant has ever shaken a leopard out of a tree. Well, I do know of a situation where an leopard killed a elephant calf. Now the elephant calf was in some sort of distress already, and it seemed as though it had some issues with its legs, and the leopard ran in and grabbed the calf. Now from there, the mother came and absolutely tried to grab this leopard, and she was furious, and the leopard bolted up into a tree, and this female just hit the tree at full speed and knocked the whole tree off and sent the leopard flying out of the tree. But that's the only time I've heard of it. I haven't heard of any other situation where a leopard has been chased out of a tree and always been hit out of a tree, except for that one. That female was just so angry. You can imagine she'd just given birth to this calf, and now a leopard came in and grabbed it, and her poor calf was dead, and she just took it out on both the leopard and the tree, and it was a serious display of power. But poor leopard went flying and then had to wait until the elephant moved away, and then came back to the carcass to feed on it. But quite a epic scenario that played out that day. It was on the Sand River down in Kirkman's area. But there we go. Now this elephant is going to get closer for sure. It's walking right on the edge, and little Thamba, you're going to have to move. Now the elephant's just seen him. But you can see the elephant's reaction to a leopard. It's going to come closer, but it's not really going to worry too much about Thamba. It knows that it's not a lion, and so in all likelihood that it's not a problem. And Lana, you say breathtaking? Well, most certainly. Thamba, you're going the wrong way because you're walking straight towards the elephants, you silly boy. He's now trying to sneak off, but he's walking in the direction of the elephants. Look at this is amazing. So all the Ellies are in front of me. Thamba off to my right, and there's a collision course about to happen. No, there he goes. He's running away now. Clever boy. Rather stay out of the way of the big Ellies. You don't want to be involved in that. But he's going to continually be pushed by these elephants. They're going to make him move quite a bit. So I'm just trying to find a way around here that I can actually stay with Thamba, because otherwise we're going to end up losing him quite quickly with all these Ellies around. Okay, girls, okay. Now elephants are just getting a little bit on the grumpy side of life. It was an incredible situation to watch. Our Ellie's little one wants to have a drink now, so we're going to try and see if we can't get around them slightly, just so that we can stay with Thamba, because once the Ellies move off, it's going to be very difficult if Thamba has run away to find him again, especially in these thickets. Now, Ellies are slowly but surely moving back down to the Mulawati, which is at least good news for us. It means we can be able to at least follow roughly where I think Thamba went. Now, where was he? The last time I saw him, he was running in this direction. It's not to say that he's still here, because I lost sight of him. Where did you go, little Thamba? I'd imagine he still wants to watch the elephants. He just wants to find a safer place to do so. So the last time I saw him was just walking through this thicket. But it most certainly is so thick in here, it's difficult to actually see anything. Just gonna try and see if I can't get around here. Careful, Seb. Now, I'm going to try to see if I can't find Thamba in this deep, dense Mulawati vegetation. And while we do that, I believe Scott is driving through a big herd of, well, one of the only animals out there that causes big herds, wildebeest.
Yes, it's a large herd of buffalo. They got a little bit spooked. I'm guessing it's from this windy condition and the long grass that then they obviously felt that there could be. There it is, Liam, on the left of your frame. It's just behind that. If you zoom in fully now. So interestingly, this poor wildebeest, you could just see the top of its horns there. It's a youngster. Oh, we just got a glimpse of its bottom. but obviously it's been separated from its mother and its herd, and it's now residing with a herd of buffalo. So not too bad. You can just see its horns now looking at us in the center of the screen. Is it going to move? We should get a view of it now. Oh, kind of there. Oh no, that's a buffalo. Anyway, there was a young wildebeest in and amongst this large herd of buffalo. Now, very, very interestingly, I was chatting to one of the other guides we passed by earlier, and he said a pride of lions has caught, yeah, that one doesn't have horns, shame. She's trying a new look, and who knows how those would have broken off. Ah, there's the wildebeest. Well done, VM. It's a shame. This guy should be able to make it from this age, as long as it has the safety and security of these buffalo, and it's probably going to be more safe and secure with them than it would with its own family, or own herd, own species. As I was saying, though, we bumped into a guide. He had some very interesting information that a pride of lion had killed a buffalo yesterday, and I found that astonishing, because VM and I were just discussing the unlikelihood of lions hunting buffalo at this time of the year, because there are so many easy meals around. But again, it's testament to the fact that we simply do not know what is going to happen and or when. Now, VM, you'll be very happy. I've just got you 2 special hot chocolates. VM and Bex had a bit of a deal going this morning, and the deal was that if VM shows Becca a giraffe, he gets 2 special hot chocolates. Now, what exactly a special hot chocolate is, I'm not too sure, but maybe Becca will whisper in my ear. It may have something naughty in it. That's what makes it special, possibly. Let's have a look down there. Maybe some whiskey, or I guess rum and hot chocolate would be not great, unless you're a pirate. There we go. Giraffe, eland, zebra, impala. What else? That's all I can see for now. Wunderbar. So sorry to hear that Thamba has disappeared, but I'm happy you had what sounded like a very interesting sighting. Oh, marabou stork on the go, getting chased by, it sounds like, some starlings. David and Goliath of the bird kingdom. Oh, looks like it got some turbulence there. Let's keep on seeing what's happening. It's very windy, and it appears this marabou stork is being taken for a ride. Its bigger wingspan, I think, allowed it to get parachuted away from those starlings that were trying to harass it before they could make contact. Seems to be recovering now. Ginormous birds, the marabou storks. They are my equivalent of a modern day pterodactyl. Imagine seeing a pterodactyl, how cool that would be. All dinosaurs, I guess. But enough of imagining what it would be like to see a dinosaur. Let's continue on. I did promise you guys I'd try and show you around the marsh, which is still up ahead of us a little bit. Now, one thing I would suggest to any of the ladies out there, if you do come on safari, to bring a sports bra, because these roads are bouncy. So that is my tip for the day. You don't have to use it, but just bring it in case. Yeah. Hello, James Richard. Good to know you're on board with us. You'd like to know if there's any more eland that will be following the migratory herds towards where we are now in the kind of northern parts of the Mara. And yes, possibly. I cannot say that conclusively, but what I can tell you is that I saw a post from a fellow guide that I know who's on safari in Tanzania at the moment, and there are still wildebeest streaming north towards Kenya. So there are still more wildebeest on the way, hard to believe. And even for us, it's really difficult to give you a good idea. I mean, failing a helicopter flip from the southern part of the migration to the northern part, it's going to be very, very tricky. Maybe we should try and organize that. Maybe that's the key. Because really, I mean, there are just so many of them, so spread out over a huge area. I mean, some will already be 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers at least ahead of the backrunners. And then also spread east and west far and wide, probably over, again, 30 or 40 kilometers, easily. So it's a massive chunk of land that they're all roaming through in a general direction. But, you know, where the most wildebeest, where the most eland, Thompson's gazelle are at any points of the migration, it's really difficult for us to tell, even though we're here on the ground. There's large areas that we don't get to see. And yeah, I don't know, but I'm guessing yes, there are more eland. How many, I cannot be certain. They are magnificent animals though. Vim and I were marveling at a huge bull, well, a number of huge bulls that we've seen as we go along. They are absolute tanks. Their necks are, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like, if this is the eland's head, their neck sticks out like that. I mean, the neck muscles on either side of their head is just ridiculous. They dwarf the buffalo. So they certainly are wonderful, wonderful creatures. Also love their big floppy dewlaps. Enough from me. Tristan has relocated on Thamba. Let's see what he's up to.
Well, we managed to find our little boy Thamba again, and I'm very surprised at him. He's sitting now in amongst a big, big herd of elephants. There are elephants to his every direction at this stage, and he's just watching what's going on. He's super chilled under his little tree. You can see his camouflage is quite well, and it's amazing actually how good his camouflage is. I drove past him twice before we actually saw him lying under the bush, but there are elephants all over, and some are quite close. In fact, some are, I would say, within not even 10 meters of where he is, and he's just watching them and watching them go by. It's absolutely amazing. Now, this herd of elephants, we only saw a few arriving at first, but I can tell you that there are lots of them inside this area, down the Mulawati. I would imagine this is that massive herd that was maybe at the dam yesterday afternoon, or one of those big herds that we've been seeing. You can see a whole bunch are starting to come, and I wonder if they're going to walk between us and him, which will be so cool. So we had him in the foreground earlier. Now it's time to have Ellie's in the foreground between him and us. And you can see there's some of the big females, and these are the ones that we saw originally. They went back down into the Mulawati. I don't know if it's going to prompt him to move, that he's going to be surrounded, but let's see how it goes. Hopefully that female doesn't head up towards where he is. Hello, girl. There you go, Seb. Look, they're going to, I wonder if he's going to run. I think he might. You can just see him under the bush there, and that elephant is walking straight towards him. He's just going to stand his ground. Look how he's lying flat. How is that? Thamba, you've got lots more nerves than I thought you did, my boy. Just underneath the elephant's tummy is a leopard. There he is. Just lying absolutely flat. You can see, look how well he camouflages. There we go. He's made a bolt for it. He's decided, no, I'm not going to hold my nerve with these guys. And off he's run. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to find him again, but how cool is that? I'm surprised at how long he held his nerve for. It's much longer than I thought he would have. Naughty little boy. But you can see, just as I died, there are elephants everywhere on my left-hand side. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to find him again. Hopefully he's going to run out onto the other side here, but he's going to have a tough time of it, because wherever he goes, he's going to find himself surrounded by elephants. Oh, come on, Rusty. Come on, Rusty. Turn. There we go. Now I'm going to try and see if I can't catch up with little Thamba again as he tries to negotiate his way through this herd of elephants. And while I do that, let's go back to Scott and see if he's managed to get close to home yet.
Hello, I'm happy to hear that Tristan is exploring one of my favorite parts of Djuma and hope he has luck in relocating. We've just bumped into this Grant's gazelle and his two ladies, a good example for you to see the difference in horn size between the female and the male. Very similar shape, just the size that's different. Very, very elegant gazelles, I feel, and the males certainly are quite impressive. Some zebbies on the horizon, a topee further off doing its thing on a termite mound. Very typical scene. They like playing king of the castle, these creatures. Very good. We're going to keep pushing forward. Whoa. I remember driving along this road one night after the biggest kind of downpour of rain since I've been here. It was a few days of it, and it was an absolute nightmare. The roads, a lot of the roads in this area become absolute slush due to the type of soil, the black cotton soil, that does provide us with the magic of the Mara. With the soil comes the food, and with the food comes the animals. But with the soil comes some shocking roads as well, and this, certainly after rain, is one of them. I'm happy to see it's dried up, and again, just useful to learn all the tricks of the area, which roads to use, which roads not to use. We nearly literally got stuck on this road at like 4 in the morning, which wouldn't have been fun. Not a good place to get stuck at that hour. Can't remember what exactly we were doing at that hour, or where we were going. We were on some kind of a mission. Alright, now we should be at the marsh, I'm guessing, in about 10 or 15 minutes, hopefully. And looking forward to showing you around there. There's usually an oasis of game, possibly some reedbuck, which is an animal we don't get to show you very often. Hello to Andy. You would like to know what is the difference between a conservancy and a reserve. You'll find, I think, depending on the country you're in, they will use the words differently. In Kenya, what I've learned, the main difference essentially is that reserves are typically owned by the government, and be it the national government or the local governments. So there's two different types of parks, just like in South Africa. You get parks that are run by, some parks are run by the state, and some parks are run by the national government. Obviously the state parks generate direct revenue for that state, whereas the national reserves create money for the governments, and that they can feed into the other national parks. Conservancies are usually, in Kenya, community-owned pieces of land that still hold wild animals, and often still hold the communities and their livestock. So it's usually a hybrid between wildlife and pastoralist cattle herding or goat herding. So that's essentially the difference that I've noticed. Alright, Tristan has managed to find you guys some elephants. Do enjoy. Oh, sorry Bex, came in a bit hot.
Well, as you can see, we once again are absolutely surrounded by elephants. So who knows where little Thamba ran off to? Shame. He must have got such a fright, because when he ran, he would have run into this whole grouping, which is on the other side of where we were. So there are just elephants everywhere through here. I reckon there must be easily 40, 50 of them roaming around in the Mulawati, and they're slowly heading to Twin Dam. So I'm going to have one last look for little Thamba, and if we don't get anything, then we're going to follow the Eddies down to the water and then watch them have a nice drink, and maybe they'll even play around at Twin Dams. They are heading in that direction, like I say, slowly but surely. But little Thamba made me laugh. He was like I say, ran, but I don't think he realized where he was running, because he ran into an even bigger group of elephants than from the ones he was running from. So, shame, poor boy. He's not in any of the trees as far as I can see, though, so he didn't go up. He's just probably sitting under a bush, much like what he was doing, staying nice and flat and hoping that the ellies don't notice him. I haven't heard any trumpets or anything like that, so it means that he's successfully managed to navigate through without actually being detected. So I'll see where he is gone, and like I say, I'll hopefully try and find him. But all the ellies are just slowly, single file, passing by as they do. You can see a little bit curious, the young boys, as always. They always like to come and have a little look and say hello to all of us. Hello, boys. This is super special. We've had such an epic morning. We've had Thamba, we've had the Thamba and ellies, and now look, now we've got ellies all around the car again. And a little bit of grumbling as well that they're making. Now, that sound that you're hearing is not their stomach making the sound. They're producing that sound via their lungs, so it's through their mouth that they are able to vocalize. And I know a lot of you often wonder whether they can vocalize through their mouth or if it's just through their trunk. Well, they can do both. So they're able to make that grumbling sound through the mouth, and then the trumpeting sound is through the actual trunk itself. Let's see, just stopping to have a feed. So the movement down towards Tundams is slow and steady at this stage. They're not going very fast, so I don't think we have too much of a rush to get down there. Hopefully it's in time for us to see them drinking. We might run out of time though, seeing as though they are stopping and feeding as they go. See, there's a couple more still coming. A few females and babies that are on my right hand side that are heading down towards this area. But I can tell you one thing is that today is going to be a scorcher. It is already very warm. You can see the elephant's ears are flapping quite a bit for 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'd imagine we're going to go well over 30 today. Christy, you're wondering if elephants have a similar constitution in terms of their stomachs as cows do? Well, no. They've got a completely different digestive system. So in cows, you've got a 4-chambered stomach, which means that they are able to regurgitate and ruminate and chew the cud, whereas elephants don't have that. They have what's called a hindgut fermenting stomach, which is a big vat-like stomach that helps with pretty much packing more and more and more in there, and a little bit gets absorbed and then it goes out and more gets put in, and that's why elephants have to eat as much as they do. They can't absorb as much nutrition as what cows do, or as buffalo or impalas or kudus that have the same digestive system as a cow. These guys just have a huge big vat-like stomach that they pack lots and lots in, and slowly but surely little bits are absorbed through each mouthful, and then it's passed through and more is then packed in there. So a little bit of a different system to what you see with the cow. But here comes Mom. She's one of the big females, and a little baby coming jogging behind. You little one. But this is most certainly a large group of elephants, that's for sure. Now, once this one goes, then I think we can try and just do a loop around to see if we can find Thamba. If there's no sign of him, then we're going to try and, like I say, follow these guys all the way to Twin Dams and see if we can't get them drinking. We've had such a special morning with Thamba already. We've been spending the last, over an hour with him, and he's been up and down all over the show and been curious and shown that he's not going to stand down for elephants too often. Now, Craig, elephants do not have territories. They have what's called a home range. So they have an area that they'll move around in, that they'll know where there's water, there's food, there's all kinds of things that they will utilize within a home territory area, and so that's how they set it up. But it is a bit fluid, so if you have a situation where you get a drought period, that home range will extend out and they'll move it and they'll go into different areas. But whereas if it's nice year with lots of vegetation and lots of water, you'll find that home range will actually be smaller in those times. So they don't have territorial systems, and that's why you won't have a territorial dominant male, and you won't have a situation where a herd of elephants actively scent marks through their territory. They just defecate, urinate wherever they want, because they don't actually have to keep others out. So they won't mind if there's another herd of elephants that joins them or another herd of elephants that's in the vicinity. That's not going to worry them at all. Right, let's see if we can find little Thamba quickly, and then we'll come back to our ellies, because, like I say, there are a number of them, and they are heading towards Twin Dam, so it should be easy to find them again, as opposed to finding Thamba. Oh, there's more ellies up here. I thought they had all come past me, but as you can see, there's a whole bunch more that are in this direction. Now, where would Thamba be? Right. I'm going to negotiate my way through not only elephants, but ridiculously thick bush. And so while I do that, no, let's not. We were going to go to James, but unfortunately, James, apparently, who had found signal and not much else, seems to have lost signal and not much else too. So we're going to stay with our ellies. There's no ways I can get through here without bumping into more of them. There's just elephants everywhere. You can see a couple more now coming out of the bush in front of me. So there's just, yeah, I think we're going to have to write off our Thamba mission for now, because there's no ways that I'm going to be able to get through all of this anytime soon. It just seems as the more I try to go round, the more ellies come. Hey, what are you doing? No, don't be naughty. You, I'm watching you. Off he goes. The kids of today, they like to be a little bit on the cheeky side. So that was just to come and see who we are and what we are, and that's why he was sniffing at us. So we have to tell him off a little bit, because he's not allowed to touch the car. That's a no-no for the elephants. I don't mind them coming close, but touching the car is a little bit too far. So when they come close like that, it's just to raise your voice slightly, just that they know that you're there, and then we'll move off. Now, interestingly enough, yesterday, the elephants that we had in the afternoon were walking quite close to us, and they were busy wagging their tails as they were going, swatting away flies and minding their own business, but one got a little bit too close and ended up hitting his tail on the car, and was quite upset that he had hit his own tail, and then went trotting off. So it was quite entertaining to watch. Now, here comes another one of the young bulls. Hopefully he's going to be better behaved. Yes, you are much better behaved. You need to talk to your sibling and tell him to behave himself. Right, now we're going to actually head across, not to James, but to Scott, who's still meandering his way home in the beautiful Mara sunshine.
So we've just bumped into these two hyena. I'm not sure what they've been doing. I think they may have been misbehaving last night, because the fact that their bellies are looking quite empty is astonishing, considering how much food there is around. I mean, look at that view in the background. Huge amounts of wildebeest. And it's interesting, we were just discussing earlier what's where, and are there going to be more animals coming, wildebeest, eland, you name it, migrating up towards us. Oh, you're going to enjoy some wallow time and a little sip to quench one's thirst. And the area we've been driving through for about the last 3 kilometers has been completely void of wildebeest, and then now we've come across this massive herd. And who knows, maybe they will be heading across towards the triangle side. So we are on the eastern side of the Mara River now. They could well be heading over to the west, backwards and forwards. There's an interesting contrast between the vegetation on this side compared to the triangle side on the other side of the river. Here they've got decent rain, and you'll notice a green hue in and around where those wildebeest were, with very short grass, whereas the grass on the other side of the river is a lot longer, more similar to what we're looking at now. Hyenas are huge fans of wallowing, as you can see here. What interests me is that I very seldom see them wetting their whole body. They just wet the undercarriage. But once or twice I've seen hyena actually fully kind of rolling around, swimming in it. But usually they're content with just the bottom half of its body. Very good. They could well be heading back towards their den sites, I'm guessing. What's fascinating is that in this area they will move right through the middle of the day, and I love bumping into them in these random hours. Not that it's the middle of the day yet, but they do move throughout the day. Chew, you would like to know if hyena can hunt on their own, and yes, they certainly can, especially when there are so many easy meals around. And to be honest, they can actually be incredibly formidable hunters, to the point where they've done some research in certain wilderness areas, and they found that the lions actually stole from the hyena more than the hyena stole from the lion. Hopefully, if Lion King 4 comes out, they will paint the hyenas in a better light and show Mufasa and Simba, or I guess their grandchildren now, stealing from the hyena, because, like I say, they can be very formidable. Hopefully we'll be able to see some action with them. I've heard of stories with clans of hyena bringing down 6, 7, 8 wildebeest down in one sitting. And Douglas, yes, certainly they will hunt at night. They will probably prefer to hunt at night, as it creates an easier playing field for them. Good. The marsh is just around one of these corners. I'm not sure exactly which one, but we should be there soon. Toodle-doo, hyena. Ah, very good. James Hendry has managed to find some more network, and we'll be able to let you know what he's been up to for the last while.
Well, unfortunately, there's still a few gremlins lurking in the Mara, so we're down in the Mulawati still with our elephants. No sign of Thamba that we can see. I'm sure he's just in one of these big thickets close by. There's thickets everywhere here, and it's difficult to find him. And I don't really want to stress him anymore. He's had to deal with elephants. He's had 3 cars with him most of the morning. So we're going to leave little Thamba to himself. We'll try come and find him again later. I don't think he's going to go very far unless Thandi comes and gets him. I'm pretty sure he's going to be in this particular area, and we'll hopefully find him fairly quickly this afternoon. But instead, we're going to follow our elephants slowly but surely down towards Twin Dams as they meander the Mulawati and look for any nutritious snacks as they go along. Now, this particular female is probably the grumpiest of the group. She's the only one that's in any way given us any sort of attention. She's lifted her head and had her ears out when I came down the riverbed, so just letting her meander off a little bit to catch up with her herd before we carry on, because I don't really want her to get grumpy with us. So ideally we'd like to spend more time with the Ellies as we wind our way to the end of this morning's drive. So let her just go around the corner, and then we'll start carrying on with her. The only problem is that I'm probably in all likelihood going to have gremlins that are going to attack that way, so I might go round the other way instead. NPI, you asking, have I ever had a sighting where elephants have gotten aggressive with the cat's presence? Numerous times, NPI. Any time that I've had a sighting with lions and elephants have come along, those poor lions have been sent scattering in every direction and running, trying to get out of the way of the elephants. So it does happen fairly regularly. Also, when there's a carcass around, that tends to get elephants a little bit hyped up. So I've seen a number of leopards being chased by elephants when they're on a carcass. They smell that meat, and it just seems to make them that much more aggressive. And you'll find they then try and run off and get away from the elephants as the elephants charge in and try and chase that animal. So it does happen fairly regularly, and I have seen it a few times. Now, I'm going to try and see if we're not going to have a problem, but we might have a few gremlin issues. So if I break up a little bit, I do apologize. I will turn off as soon as we do get a bit of breakup. I just want to round the corner, and this little corner sometimes can be a little bit difficult when it comes to the gremlins. They like to jump on for all these low-hanging trees. So while I quickly go around, let's see if we can try for our third time lucky with Mr. Henry and see if he's able to get us. And whether or not he's had any more luck with anything this morning.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, good. That's wonderful news. I must apologize, everybody. I'm not sure what's going on with our sound. I can tell you that we have had a wonderful time, unfortunately out of signal area. I took a turn where I thought we would get signal, and I'm afraid we just did not. We went through an enormous herd of wildebeest, probably in excess of, well, who knows, probably in excess of about 20,000 or so, all heading down towards that Salt Lick area. And so I think that we'll probably head back there during the course of the afternoon and see if those lions aren't perhaps hunting some of the animals there. In the meantime, we have got some long distance views of elephants and some wildebeest in our stop over here, where we can just get off the road slightly without turning into the ditch on the side. And we'll see if we can't have a quick look there. No, we can't because of our stop behind this ditch. No, we should be all right. There we go. There they are. And remarkably fewer wildebeest in this area than there were a week ago. Of course, these hills here were just covered in much the same way that those hills to the south are now. Now, this does not mean in any way that the migration season in the Mara Triangle is over and that those wildebeest are heading back towards the south. It does not mean that at all. Now, remember, last year when we came here in August, we had very much the same scenes that we had yesterday or last week, with all of these plains filled with wildebeest and lions coming up the escarpment and down towards the main crossings. And we came back 2 weeks later, and there wasn't a wildebeest in sight. And we thought, my goodness, we're here too late. And we're, it was then that we arrived to finally start broadcasting from here. And we thought, well, we're too late. It's not going to be possible to do it. And then we drove into Tanzania. Well, no, we didn't do that. Well, we did, but we couldn't tell anyone about it. And then suddenly, 2 days later, there they all were again on these plains. So they go up and down all throughout the season, and there is no set time for them to leave. Some might go back, start the trek back now, but most will come back here following wherever the rain falls. And I am, of course, talking largely about wildebeest, not about elephants. And the most interesting thing about elephants here, of course, is that it is up to them, apparently, to keep this area relatively bush-free. Without the elephants, they reckon that the bush would be a hugely thicker prospect in this area. Christy, you're interested in how much an elephant eats in a day. Well, the most reliable information, that actually is scientific, comes from research done actually on a 10-year-old cow in South Africa. And she ate about 150 kilograms of food a day. That's about 400 pounds. But obviously you can extrapolate from that. And a big bull weighing in at about 6 tons, we think, eats about double that, about 300 kilograms or 660 pounds of food in one day. And most remarkably, of course, that elephant will then produce about 150 kilograms of dung. So they are very important, in terms of the amount that they eat, but of course also in terms of the amount that they put back into the soil. And as I was saying a few days ago, when you think about the wildebeest and you think about their numbers, can you imagine how this landscape would look without the input of the fertilizing effects of the dung and urine of the millions of wildebeest that come through here? I think it would be a profoundly different place. So while the grass most certainly shapes the wildebeest population, so do the wildebeest in fact feed the grass. Right, apparently Scott has found an unfortunately and a very unlucky and possibly just fallen off the twig wildebeest.
Yes, this wildebeest certainly did not have a lucky migration. It has come to its doom. You can see a lioness sitting in the shade in the background. I'm not convinced she actually killed this wildebeest recently. It doesn't look very fresh. She is looking full-bellied though, so maybe it was just desperate and managed to snack on that. A whole bunch of vultures and marabou storks are cashing in on this easy meal, and again, just useful to take note of how useful these birds are for this ecosystem, because without them here there wouldn't be as nearly an effective enough cleaning operation to make sure all these carcasses do get consumed before they completely rot and possibly start types of disease or anything like that. I'd love to know where these vultures come from and how far and wide they travel in order to cash in on the bounty of the migration. Need to try and get a hold of some vulture researchers as part of one of our homework projects. They can tag their wings, and I haven't seen any with tags on. There certainly will be with tags, I'm almost certain, floating around Kenya somewhere, but I haven't seen any yet. And with those tags, if anybody sees them, you just take a picture or the number of the tag and send it through to, I guess, the vulture authorities, and they can let you know where it was tagged, where it moves, where it was last seen. Ooh, it looks like they're possibly plucking up the courage to go and have another snack. They're probably all so gorged, that's why they're just sitting here. Some of them are actually lying down like swans or chickens, just relaxing. There's one. Yes, Dr. Rob, that certainly is a lot of vultures for one wildebeest. Here they go. I love it when they squabble over the kills. Ideally, when it's fresh, you get to see some great action with these birds. And you think there's a lot here. We actually haven't, or at least I haven't been lucky in showing you large amounts of vultures descending upon kills. It can be an absolutely epic spectacle to behold. Just dropping in from all angles, fighting with one another, even fighting with other animals like jackals. Oof. I think you need to go and have a shower at some point, my friend. You are not looking very clean, but after the meal, you keep cashing in. Ooh, that looked like a good piece. Yummy. And again, just how well developed they are with that barely feathered neck that can get cleaned fairly easily, as opposed to the rest of their much more feathered body. And this is obviously a perfect adaptation for the types of meals and the style of feeding that they get involved in. Sometimes you can see them slipping their whole neck and head in and along the rib cage to try and peel off pieces of meat. It appears they haven't needed to get that far on this carcass yet, but they will get there at some point. Very good. The marsh, I think, is just around the corner, so let's see if we can get you there, because I've been promising I would show you that. We've just been a little bit delayed. Tristan is still with that herd of elephants though, so why don't you join him until we get to the marsh.
Now, we are still with our Ellies. I thought we're going to get moving a little bit quicker than they have, so unfortunately I don't think they're going to make twin dams. They're not far. They were probably about 400 meters, but as you can see, they're not exactly moving very fast. They're all tucking in for breakfast, and it's getting seriously warm already. It's not even 9 o'clock in the morning here, and I would imagine that the temperature must be close to 28, 29 degrees already. 7 hours just saying that it is very hot at the moment, and so maybe they're just making use of some shade before they head out for water. I was hoping they were going to get to twin dams because I wanted to actually see how many elephants were here. It feels like there are elephants everywhere, so it would be interesting just to count the number that we actually have and to have seen them out in the open and all moving around together. But unfortunately,
Welcome back. Not sure what the problem could have been over there with Trist, but I think you've joined at a good time. I can see a bunch of vehicles up ahead, so let's go and find out what they're looking at. VM's just spotted a line, so I'm guessing it's several of them here. I can see a few more heads poking out. Very good. And it appears like it's on the move, surrounded by game all around us. A whole bunch of topi looking at visitors. Looks like a male over there.
Hello everybody, sorry about that, not sure what's going on. All I can tell you that we found is driving wind at this stage. We are doing our best to find something else, but I think you'll find that very few birds are managing to even take to the air at the moment, many of them just clinging on to the sides of trees, hoping that they will not blow off into the wind. I'm not sure exactly what kind of weather system is going through here, but it's a fairly vicious one. Ah, hooray, an animal. A hyena. There we are. Very nice. Hello. Where have you been? Of course, many of the hyena these days around here can barely walk for the size of their fat bellies. There is so much here for them to eat. Much of it they don't have to kill on their own. And I think this is probably a male who's been out foraging. And he might still be foraging. He may have picked something up. You know, he's heading straight into the wind, so maybe he's picked up the scent of some more rotting flesh. And it was so interesting as we were driving along, just exactly as this hyena is using our road. I think a two-track, which is a sort of, well, a little track that was cut into the grass that joins two main roads that we were driving along earlier, has now become a major migration route. And instead of two little tire tracks on it, there are now sort of 10 lanes of wildebeest path. And it seems to be a major thoroughfare that we were on, that they used to get from the escarpment down towards that Salt Lick area. And it's because it's just easier to walk where you can see, A, and B, not sort of be tickled, I guess, by the grass. And that's exactly what this hyena's doing. Let's follow him down the road for a bit. That's going to be it from us. We'll follow this one on a little bit. Let's head across to Scott now for the last few minutes.
Shame, this Thompson's gazelle is really not in a good state, and just interesting that it hasn't been picked off by a predator yet. It looks like it can barely stand on its own four legs. Let's not focus on this guy's sad state of affairs too much. There's two what look to be young but beautiful male lions ahead of us. VM's on the third one there, heading away. And the other two are there, looking very, very regal, with their manes blowing in the breeze. I think they've made a kill not far from where they're lying, because there's a few vultures and marabou stalks dotted about. Let's see if we can get you a little bit closer for some final views of these wonderful lions. I don't have a clue. I'm going to have to just stop here and bank this shot, because it seems like our signal's no good. So let's just snipe them from here. Beautiful. Well, what a great way to finish off this sunrise safari. Oh, it's still snacking on something there. Breakfast is still on the go. Speaking of which, I am absolutely starving, so looking forward to getting back to camp. We're having quiche for breakfast, one of my favorites. And a big thank you to all of you who joined in, sent through questions, and enjoyed traversing not only the Masai Mara, but also the Sabi sands at Djuma with Tristan. Tristan's been doing a great job holding the fort there, and we've certainly enjoyed contributing from our side. A lot of you will be looking forward to seeing Jamie and Brent's faces again. They'll be back this afternoon along with a lot of the other crew. We're all looking forward to having them back. Why don't you just take a last view of these lions before we say goodbye. Thanks again. Until the sunset safari, have fun wherever in the world you may be.